Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Checked Before. This time we're wrapping up season 3. Yeah, lots of good stuff. Lots of good stuff to talk about. Will we change our bottom 5, our top 5, our favorites, our favorite people? Our favorite people. I'm just going to call them our favorite people. Do we change that at the end? Am I going to stick with my Seinfeld choice? I think you already know the answer, but listen anyway. Listen into our wrap up of season 3. Speaking of which, Patreon.com. Become a Patreon member. Become a supporter of us, patreon.com/IBD. Support this show, support the network, IBD Radio Hour, the mothership. Support all of us by going there. And you can see all the videos we've been doing all last season for the Patreon members. And of course, because I don't know if you know, there was a pandemic going on. So we recorded all these and we got the videos. You can go back and check those out. Become a Patreon member. We love it. We love the support. We can feel the love tonight. Just like we can feel it, you'll hear it in this, our season 3 wrap-up on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And Keith.
Jimmy-Jerome. We are here to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 3. First impressions of the season.
I thought the stinger was the perfect way to end the season.
The stinger nobody heard last week.
Yeah, as I was telling Jimmy before Steven got back, I was so disappointed that whether we're going to keep it or not, I had it queued up and I wanted to be able to go live long and fire and then right into the stinger, but no.
Okay, maybe you can make a YouTube video that's just 60 minutes of that stinger over and over.
Maybe they wouldn't take it down then. Yeah. I don't know.
I thought it was so consistently good. I think it had some high points, and I'm always going to be biased towards TOS, but I thought, and there was a few duds in there, but I don't know that we hated any episodes. We got real close to Transfigurations, I think, me and Jimmy last week, 2 weeks ago.
And there were 2 episodes ranked below that.
Yeah. And it was surprising how we got that low, but I was thinking about season 1 of Trek because I've been doing a slow rewatch of that over the last year when I fold and put away laundry. And that season, and I think I like it even more this time watching it, but even that had a Charlie X, and eventually I'll have to suffer through not Operation Annihilate. That one's not great, but the Alternative Factor.
Tomorrow is yesterday.
Tomorrow is yesterday. Yeah, that's in there. I forgot about that too. So I don't feel like we had one of those in here. I don't think we had a Menagerie, but I also think the Menagerie might be one of the most perfect sci-fi episode ever on television. But
I would put up Best of Both Worlds and Sons of the Father against a Menagerie. I would not put them as high as low,
but I would not put them as
high as City on the Edge of Forever.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm leaving out. I'm burying the lead. These would probably be low for me, but I think, there were a lot of really good episodes, and like I said, I'm underselling it by saying we didn't have any stinkers because I thought we had a lot of. Our top middle was really good. Was really high.
Yeah, I'm inclined to compare season 3 of Next Gen to season 1 of TOS. I think season 2 of TOS was better.
Yeah.
But I think season 3 of TNG is pretty comparable to season 1 of TOS.
I thought that's where I was ending up.
Yeah. And I think it's if we were to rank the seasons, which we do for Next Gen,
right,
I think this is easily the best of the 3 seasons.
Yeah, I think
so far.
I'd say it's the best of both worlds, in fact, or all 3 worlds. Oh, I mean, my problem with trying to do things like this is I have sort of like the opposite of Steven in the regard that I have too strong a modern bias.
Yeah.
As far as I don't think I'd seen really any complete episodes of the original series before I started watching TNG, and so the sensibilities of television at that time across the board, regardless of what it is, and I would certainly put Star Trek above most of anything that would have been coming out at that time. There's still those things. There's still certain ways that the ways they approached television acting, more like the stage. There were of course all the different social biases they had that constrained them from doing certain things, or things that were reflected in that. As progressive as it is comparatively, it is still there.
I think you could say some of that complaint still extends to Next Gen.
Oh, of course, yeah. But it's a less. God, I mean, you couldn't have had a Geordi in TOS, is what I'm saying.
We are now further away from Next Gen than Next Gen was from the original series.
Yeah,
and the way our society and in terms of being woke has come a lot further in the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's still a comment I want to make about this, though. It's the character of Geordi, the way that we sometimes rag on him, Jimmy more than me, certainly. But the remarkable thing about his character is that he gets to be like an awkward science nerd. He's a black actor in a show like this, and he doesn't have to talk like he's from the street or do this whole thing where he has to appear cool in a certain way. It is just this is an engineering officer. He's a socially awkward nerd. Go.
I mean, just once again, the parts of Geordi I hate are generally the ones I identify with. So I think it's my own complaints of myself that make me detest parts of Geordi. Although you make a good point that this season, like, he had a lot of focus. And just like last season, I think we were looking at Data or Worf as standout. I think Geordi had a really strong season this year.
Yeah.
Overall.
But I guess getting back to my original point, hearing Steven even talk about TOS again, it makes me want to go back and watch it again to be able to kind of reinforce certain things, because it's really hard to, the way we're flying through it, it's really hard to absorb certain things and get that appreciation. I know that there are certainly moments where, and this is why I need to go back and do it. It's just, I remember there are certain character building moments that we refer back to when you have a good conversation with between Kirk and Spock, and it just, I think they were handicapped even more than TNG was at the time because of even less serialization.
Yeah,
it was just sort of like we had to throw this one thing at it, and these are all just commercials for them. It's like, oh, no one's paying attention to this. Let's just throw something at them. But yes, I like TNG 3.
So
in summary, I'm sorry. God, I can't keep going.
We've ranked the season so far 3, 2, 1. So we agree the show keeps getting better. I can't imagine it gets much better than this. I feel like it's relatively steady, the rest, which would be fine. If it's all TOS season 1 level, I'm good with that.
Oh, yeah.
TOS season 2, I think nostalgia definitely plays a big part in that, because there were some real stinkers in there, but I don't know, there's something about that original show that's just, even if I only grew up on the movies without the episodes, I really like a lot of the episodes. So the best episodes of the season, we ended with Best of Both Worlds in first place, Sins of the Father in second, then The Defector, which was the Romulan, Yesterday's Enterprise, and Who Watches the Watchers, the Proto-Vulcans. I could easily go into 6 through 10 of keeping it up in the high, because that was The Price, Menage a Troi, Sarek, The Offspring, Deja Q, and number 11 is A Matter of Perspective, which we loved. So I'd say easily there's 11 right there that are just really, really good episodes.
Keith, I was leaving that for you.
Oh, we hated it. There's 11.
Well, it's a matter of perspective.
I was just, that was too much in my head just then.
But
right by
yeah,
me.
Jimmy, when you were listing those off, I was like, yeah. I would watch those. I look forward to watching those again. A lot of those are just really good or fun.
I feel like we like Tin Man and the Most Toys, which are down at episodes 18 and 19 of 25, of 26. So
Tin Man's the Tin Woodman one, right?
Yeah, the big snail shell in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say you have to get down to Ensigns of Command, which is number 20, before I really started to say, not so into it. So that's 3/4 of the season I thought were pretty darn solid. Mm-hmm. If we're looking at the top 5, Best of Both Worlds, Sins of the Father, Defector, Yesterday's Enterprise, Who Watches the Watchers, do we think that's a good solid 5? Should there have been some reordering? I think Sarek belonged up there, but I think I was the outlier on that one.
Yeah, because I thought 6 and 7, those were The Price and
Menage a Troi.
Menage a Troi.
Menage a Troi, I wish was a little higher too.
Those are both, to me, like the lack of a better term, the good time, fun episodes.
Yeah, Your Trouble with Tribbles episodes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I think it was a missed opportunity to not put Menage a Troi at 3, of course. No, that's silly. I'm sorry. Go. I should have interrupted you for that.
No, that was worth it.
That was a good one.
That was worth it. But yeah, I like those two. I could see again, and that gets into a thing of what's more rewatchable or whatever, that kind of thing. Because watching a super serious episode, although again, you and I, Jimmy, we'll watch City on the Edge of Forever anytime it shows up.
Every week for the rest of my life.
I would not call that a good time episode, even with such lines as his head got caught in a rice picker. But
one of the all-time best lines of Star Trek.
I think those two, if those ended up in our top 5, I wouldn't have been mad. But
you know what? You made a
11-year rattle off there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, you made a great point for me. I've been distracted trying to get my head around. I have really hard time making those kinds of qualitative comparisons to say this is definitely objectively better than this. This is this much higher than this episode, and I think a lot of it does come down to rewatchability. And pretty much like any series, any episode within Star Trek, if it's on, I probably wouldn't mind watching it. Like the bad ones, it's like I can't imagine just like going, I can't sit through this. The thing of it though, I mean, you said the super serious ones, and that's where I started to think about it, because like I started rewatching Futurama for probably the 3rd or 4th time not too long ago. There is one episode that I will consistently never watch whenever it comes up. And of course, that is the one where he goes back in time, or they show the story of Fry's dog.
Yeah.
I'm talking about, that one. I don't need to see it. I have no interest in going through that.
I love that episode.
I know that's it. It's qualitatively a great episode. It's very touching, but even with me being able to kind of shut off and go, okay, fine. I don't find it enjoyable to watch. I think that's the thing. And that's where a City on the Edge of Forever, it's interesting if that it's a great episode qualitatively and objectively and all kinds of things, but I'm not sure if I would go through that ride repeatedly because I know it's coming. The tragedy that they're throwing at you. I don't know.
Yeah.
So one thing that struck me as I'm looking at the top for the first 3 seasons, the 3 number 1 episodes across the 3 seasons seem relatively different. Haven, which was a big Troy episode with the betrothal, was the season 1 top. Second season was Measure of a Man, Data going on trial. Yeah. And third season, Best of Both Worlds, which you could call a Picard episode, but I would argue is more of a Riker episode. And I feel like those are very different, focusing on different characters. But if you look at what second place is for all 3 seasons, Heart of Glory, A Matter of Honor, Sins of the Father. The Klingons consistently come in at second place.
Wow.
Whatever the Klingon episode is of the season, it's going to be right up there, just a hair under the top. I think that's interesting.
There are so many things I appreciate this time through, a lot of nuance that I wasn't getting. Well, I meant to mention this a couple episodes back, but Guinan, I did not appreciate her nearly enough at the time it was airing. It was, it was like, okay, that's just kind of there.
That's the Sister Act girl.
Yeah, it just, it's great for popularity, whatever. This time through, and I've had a lot more exposure to theater since then, certainly. My sensibilities have changed a bit when I'm watching things. I look for certain things, and it's just there's something about what she does. I can't think of adjectives, but you know what I'm saying.
I'm on the exact same page. I did not appreciate her the way she deserved to be appreciated.
Yeah. So, but to transfer my point, Klingons. Just the idea of what they're doing in this series with Klingons to further the lore is so much better than anything.
It's a huge step up from the original series treatment of Klingons.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and that's part of why I'm a Romulan fan. And the Defector was a really good episode. The other one was okay, but mostly the Romulans have just been around.
So I've long been a bigger fan of the Klingons than the Romulans, but the Klingons are more central in the original movies that I grew up. Those were my main original things. And the Next Gen, of course, and Klingons are very heavily in DS9. So that's probably why. The Romulans, they've never been my favorite. I agree. The original series Romulan episodes were great.
Yeah. But I think those original episodes were more, again, for lack of a better term, nuance about the Romulans. And the Klingon episodes were very broad.
Yeah.
And I think it gets flipped at this point where, like I said, the Defector was really good. But I think the other Romulan episodes, the Romulans could be anybody. They could be any other race that's just mad at the Federation or whatever, other than just a reason to bring back the neutral zone. The neutral zone is a more interesting concept than the Romulans for the most part, other than the Defector. But the Klingon episodes obviously are great. And
I like the Romulans in the books a lot. There's a lot of good Romulan books that explore them. Next Gen era and the original era. But the next gen Romulans on television always disappoint me. And I know we haven't got to Unification yet, which is a big Romulan 2-parter in Next Gen, which is supposed to be really good. And I don't think I've ever seen it. But Star Trek Picard was very heavily Romulan focused. The final Next Gen movie was very heavy Romulan focused. And those both kind of left me like, I'm not like, that wasn't my favorite part of Star Trek Picard. That was not my favorite part of Nemesis. I don't know.
I think I'm with Steven in the sense that that something about that fascination still carries over for me no matter what. Because of how mysterious they were able to make the Romulans, or the idea of what they were and where they came from, that I always want more. And in this case, I think the Cardassians end up being a better version of what that's supposed to be than
I agree.
They are in the modern that this era. Phase 2 Star Trek, whatever would you call it? I don't know.
And yet none of them within the last 5 years, Trek has done anything with the Cardassians, and very little other than Discovery Season 1, not a lot with the Klingons, but they've done tons with the Romulans. So we'll see. Worst episodes of the season. Let's start 5 from the bottom and go down to the bottom. The Hunted, The Bonding, Transfigurations, Vengeance Factor, Evolution. The Bonding's the only one I'm not sure belongs in there.
That's just, again, it's sort of like luck of the draw, the way things get shuffled in one direction or another when something comes in. And, once you get pushed down that far, you can't really, I don't know.
I'd swap Ensigns of Command, which is 7 from the bottom, with the Hunted, with the Bonding.
Are you allowed to do that?
Bottom 5. No, but I'm discussing in general. I will say, though, Evolution, as much as it was a low point of the season, was better than the worst episodes of Season 1 and 2, which were Season 1 was Code of Honor. And Season 2 was Shades of Grey, the clip show episode. Yeah. So there's nothing in Season 3 that's as bad as the bottoms of Season 1 and 2.
Where was Picard Squared, or what was it? The
Time Squared?
Yeah, Time Squared.
That would have been the bottom of Season 2 had they not done the clip show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I was going to mention this earlier. I think what we've decided, and maybe we haven't, maybe I've decided, I think what we hate more than anything is a dull episode.
Yeah.
Like the Alternative Factor, which I remembered as a kid, I was like, oh, so great. And then as an adult, I was like, why isn't this over yet?
Yeah.
And, and some of those things, I think that almost, whether they're making Spock's brain is kind of like a Plan 9 from outer space thing, I think, to some people at this point, even in the Children Shall Lead, which I hate, obviously. I feel like the ones we hate the most are like, if you take a shot and at least try and do a sci-fi concept, we're going to run with you at least a little bit. But if you're just like phoning it in and just not even, and just being completely lazy about it, if you bore us that much, and again, maybe I'm getting back to rewatchability too. Like I remember us talking about, to go back to TOS again, Lights of Zatar was one that I think I'm trying. I don't know if it was our Season 1 wrap up of that or Season 3 wrap up of that, but I remember Jimmy saying, I don't even remember what that episode was about. I just know I didn't like it.
I second that right now.
Yeah. So I think that's what we punish the most. And I think deservedly we punished it the most because.
Yeah, there are slower paced episodes we like.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be action packed.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, it has to have something interesting.
Yeah. I was going to say on that subject, one thing I would look forward to in my TOS rewatch, because this is an episode that I watched on my own that I wasn't paying close enough attention to, would be Cat's Paw. There's so many things that just blew past me that I feel like I need to give it another shot just so I can dislike it for the right reasons or something.
Cat's Paw is not dull, that's for sure. But
that's true.
It's a lot of other things.
That's true. Looking at our crushes of the season, Steven, you stuck the longest with Mrs. Apgar.
Yeah, and I love Shelby, but I'm going to stick with Apgar. It's going to be another Seinfeld connection.
Well, your other second choice that you kept for quite a while as well was Leah Brahms.
Which she was really cool too. Yeah.
But you want Apgar for the season.
Yeah.
Keith, you stuck the longest with Jovel, whatever the hostess on Ryza. But you also stayed with Captain Garrett for a while, Yuta the Buta, Leah Brahms.
Wait, what?
Yuta the Buta.
Yuta, who Steven kept going, Yuta the Buta.
I don't remember hearing that.
That's I edited that episode recently.
Oh, it's like from that Jay Giles. It's like a Popeye thing or something.
Repeater the Buta? It's from that Jay Giles. No, it must have got lost.
So, Keith, do you think you want to keep your hostess, or would you like to go back to Ardrian or Yuta or Captain Garrett?
God, it's all a blur right now. That is just amazing.
I don't think there's anybody on the level of like last season's Brenna or Kalar, but my long-running ones were the Op Station's Brunette, who came back in the last few episodes of the season, Captain Garrett, and Vash.
Vash is a good one.
Vash is a good one, but there's also a lot of really good ones that didn't stick, like Sarek and Loxana and Shelby.
Once again, it's luck of the draw where they showed up in the season.
Yeah,
get shuffled.
Mm-hmm. Right. I think I just have to go with the Op Station Brunette just for the longevity and her sticking around. I don't know. And she was very noticeable because I don't think she ever had a line. But she's constantly in Data's station. She was there in the Best of Both Worlds as well. So I'm going to go with the Op Station Brunette.
In my rewatch of TOS, it is amazing to me how much I notice everyone in the background more than ever.
Because you've seen the episodes so many times at this point.
That might be it too. Yeah. It's like, I know what they're talking about.
Yeah. But and you've watched them relatively recently, the whole series.
Yeah.
So.
How many times do you think you've seen a typical episode of TOS?
Typical, probably 10 to 15.
Wow.
I'd say. Just because I watched there was a time where I watched it every day. And then even then, if I didn't watch it every day, I saw an episode 4 to 5 times a week. So I did that for about 3 or 4 years in a row. And then,
And for
sorry.
Oh, I was going to say for TNG, I was going to say maybe 1 to 2 for me. Typically, Voyager is usually 2 to 3. So we'll see.
Yeah, there aren't many episodes I've seen a whole bunch of times other than like Trouble with Tribbles, City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take back my Op Station Burnett because I forgot, because Leah Brahms only lasted 1 episode. But I think looking over my list again, I'm going to go with Leah Brahms as my Woman of the Year, Crush of the Year. She really stood out. Keith?
Kind of similar there, actually. It's just, I don't know. God, I can't get probably Captain Garrett.
Oh, Garrett's a great choice. I considered. Annoyance of the season. Wesley's average for season 1 was 2.8. His average for season 2 was 2.0. His average for season 3 is a 1.7.
Wow.
So we are not finding Wesley annoying at all. And I know his time as a lead on the series is relatively close to the end. I think sometime in season 4 is when he departs.
I almost thought it had gone up this season, but I guess all of our
it went down.
Was in the last few weeks.
Yeah, the highest we found Wesley annoying, there's only a couple of times it got over a 2. Hollow Pursuits, which was just a few weeks ago, we ranked him a 4.7.
Oh, yeah, because he was kind of in a bullying of Reg. There.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then the season premiere, he was a 3.5.
Yes.
And the only other times it got over 2 was Best of Both Worlds and Menage a Troy, which, were 2 of the last 3. So, he really stayed pretty low. He had 1s most of the season. Annoyances, looking through to see some reoccurring. Steven, I don't think you had Riker twice. That's the most I see.
Wow. Yeah, I was trying to think of somebody who really annoyed me.
Yeah, you really don't have many. That's like your only. I'm pretty sure that's your only repeat scanning through here. Keith, you have no repeats whatsoever.
Well, that sounds like me.
I had Picard 3 times, twice in the beginning of the season.
That's amazing. I think it's that your objection is usually about the writing of them or something, right? I mean, just character consistency.
I mean, we all had Riker at least once. We all had Wesley at least once. I have more leads than you two. In my list, Worf appears, Riker, obviously several Picards, Geordi, Wesley. Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to go with side pieces.
Yeah. There were a few episodes we all agreed on. We all agreed on Ghost Shivan for Ensign's Command way back at the beginning. We all agreed on Rawl for The Price. And that might be the only two we agreed. Oh, in Sarek, we all agreed on Medrosin. So 3 times we were all in agreement.
And I would think that Q would be on my list, but I really liked his episode this season. So
yeah, Deja
Q wasn't on my list.
Q, Keith had Q Amari for that episode. I don't remember what that refers to.
What?
Here says Q Amari. I don't know.
Go
back and listen to the podcast because I don't remember. I haven't edited that one yet. I think
was that the annoyance I put?
Yeah, you put the annoyance as Q Amari.
My God, that's like so nothing.
I'm editing Deja Q right now. I'm in the middle of editing it, but I haven't got to that part. So, any final thoughts on season 3? Something you want to talk about? Oh, I noticed a trend. Beverly came back, which I was very excited about as much as I did miss Pulaski, but I think they gave her more to do this season. Still not enough, but more.
Yeah, we talked about there are some episodes where we don't see her that much. And I guess if you think about her as a McCoy, it makes sense. It doesn't make sense, but in terms of what she means to it. But yeah, there were more episodes we'd call a Beverly episode or Beverly storyline. At least she had a B storyline. And yeah, you know what? It's weird that I'm so used to her being back. I completely forgot that she was gone last season. Yeah.
Keith pointed out Geordi had more development this season, which I agree and appreciate. Yeah. I feel like Data took more back seat, which I appreciated as well, to give everybody else more of a chance. Because I feel like he was really heavy in season 2.
Yeah.
And will be again by the films. But the films are basically starring Picard and Data and everybody else. So...
Yeah, I felt like, obviously we liked a lot of the episodes this season and felt like they were hitting their stride. You know, even like, Tin Man we talked about, I think that was one of our lower rated episodes this season. But that was one where...
Lower middle.
Yeah, that was one where, it wasn't a great episode, but it was one where these guys took their short story from the 70s and like the fact that they were able to refashion it and fit these characters in fairly seamlessly, really. Yeah, and I think I talked about this last season, but I think even more now, it's like the characters are so solidified. And I don't mean ossified, I mean solidified, like I know this person, I know these people. And I think that gives the actors, the directors, the writers a little more freedom, and it makes it a little more interesting. As far, and again, we're talking about 1990, where television still wasn't, we're not going to get crazy. But I think that makes it easier to have like the poker game things that I can watch a 6-minute poker game, even if it has nothing to do with the rest of the episode. It usually does, but even if it doesn't, just for the character interaction, is great. And, it's one of those things which I wish season 3 of God, can you, I actually, a lot of people have imagined if season 3 of TOS had this kind of character interaction, how great it would have been. And so they all wrote novels and fan fiction and everything else, and that's why we're here now doing a rewatch podcast of Star Trek in general. So so I think that stuff just continued to grow, and I think that's why we have such great episodes. Is that for the?
I agree. I think they really found out how to use Troy this season. Mm-hmm. Worf had a great season. Just even the episodes where he just has a few lines, they deliver every time.
Oh, he's hit that kind of stride. They fight figured out where to put him, where it's not too serious, not too funny, just kind of it's there. And
but when you let him get serious, he does that well too.
Right.
Yeah.
When you get his sins of the father, the bonding.
But
I
think
the Klingon. He's not just the alien / Klingon on the bridge.
Right.
He's a full-fledged character.
And they figured out the Ferengi this season.
Oh,
yeah.
Finally.
They're getting there. But about Worf again, that it's almost like he also sort of mirrors the development of Klingons overall. Once they started figuring out how to bring their storylines in and further develop them as more of a 3-dimensional species, characters, so on, the traditions. I think that they're able to kind of play off that with him too. So he doesn't have to be the cartoon character in the bridge, like.
I compare that to Spock's development, where you didn't know what a Vulcan was at first, and once they figured out what a Vulcan was, and the Vulcans say that they're not emotional, but they're super emotional. It's kind of the same thing with Klingons. They say they're all warlike, but they have a lot of other depth to them. So
Spock was such a hit, for lack of a better term, in season 1 that you start season 2 with a muck time,
right?
And which is very much, like you were saying, each of our second favorite episodes of these 3 seasons were Klingons, and they each kind of elevated Worf and the Klingon, what we know about them. So that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, going with what they've done with the Klingons right now, I can see why they wanted to use them more in DS9 and really build up more of a Klingon presence, especially if you're going into the peace. We already see
right.
The original series was very peacetime, even if there were dangers they ran into. Next Gen was even more peacetime when it started, because like everything was much better now. It was more settled. It was more whatever. But with the Borg, we're starting to see the layers of the war stuff enter again. And by DS9, they're going to really lean into the dark, heavy war. And I think that just shows you, like, as great as Gene Roddenberry's utopian vision of the future is, it can be boring if you don't put the conflict and stuff in.
Yeah. And we've talked. I know we've talked about on here several times about, he was like, I don't want any conflict. It's like, that's not great TV necessarily.
No.
But yeah, I think.
Well, I think that the conflict was there because of the time period when it was airing. I mean, the piece itself was probably grating to a lot of people who didn't want to see that sort of thing. Well, what I'm saying, the social commentary that he was trying to make. I mean, if you have people with prejudices watching this sort of thing, that's the conflict. Trying to get them to understand the value of peace among races and so forth.
As much as the original 5-year mission ran into trouble, the overall message was, aliens are cool, or whatever. When we go where no man has gone before, there's gonna be some trouble, but overall we're all cool. And I think when you get to the Borg, eventually it's like, you know what? If you go into space, eventually you're going to find some people that are not cool. And it doesn't matter how much you try and talk to them, they're not going to be cool.
Eventually you'll find a snake.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think there's also, it's almost like Starfleet leads the culture as well. And the 60s was such a tumultuous time, but Star Trek was showing more of the 70s vibe while they were in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think you can very similarly say, right now, looking back, the 90s were kind of our utopian time of our adult lives.
Yeah.
I wasn't even an adult in the 90s. Things were going well with the economy and politics and stuff. And this was late 80s into the early 90s, whereas the odds got really messy, but Star Trek started getting the messiness in the late 90s. So I feel like Star Trek's always a little bit ahead of where we're going as a society.
Yeah.
Stephen said something really interesting earlier that I want to say before I've almost lost it already anyway. Season 3 TOS.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way. And I think that's what another thing that was holding it back is the extreme lack of serialization, to the extent that everything was so piecemeal with all the writers and just throwing all kinds of crap at it. Let's repurpose this. You didn't get to have that camaraderie. You don't really get to see it until the movies, which Jimmy was watching in the 80s.
Yeah, and season 3 of TNG this is a hit. We've got a juggernaut. Whereas season 3 of TOS was like, we're hanging on for our lives. Our budget's getting cut. And, I've said this many times, a lot of those episodes, the whole Shatner impersonation that everyone does is Shatner just trying real hard to make things that aren't great.
Season 3 Shatner,
yeah. And he's just trying real hard. And they were at different points, obviously, but thank God that they were at different points.
I think Keith made a good point. Like, they did have a bunch of writers on original, and as much as Gene tried to oversee everything for the first 2 years, I don't necessarily felt like they have a cohesive voice. Whereas Next Gen started that way too, where it was very uneven and things weren't latching up. But by this point in the series, and I forgot to mention when we talked Best of Both Worlds, it was written by Michael Piller, who at this point was the showrunner, and directed by Cliff Bull, one of the standbys. And I think by having Michael Piller as the showrunner, and then he'll go on to co-create DS9 and Voyager, like, you have very direct visions and people making sure things are on track. I mean, look at this episode that Michael Piller wrote and how many character moments he gave for each member of the crew. Even Beverly being the one to see Lakutis, and she didn't have that much to do, but he understood that you don't just have the danger, you have to build in these people and what they're going through and how they relate to one another. And I think that was a strength of Next Gen. I think that's where people love Next Gen, is seeing this group together. And I think DS9 and Voyager lean even more heavily into their cast of characters. So
well, and I think it goes back to, you know, again, I'll draw another parallel to season 3 of TOS. You know, Kirk and Spock and McCoy would have been well developed, but the rest of the cast hadn't.
Yeah,
and so they just leaned even more heavily into that. Whereas, you know, TNG, the season we just watched, they're like, Data might take a little bit of a backseat this season, but God, we got to develop all these other people, and they got their own episodes and things, and it was about Geordi and stuff, which I think TOS could have done, but again, they were hanging out for the lives, but also they just chose not to. And they didn't do enough in season 2 to bridge that gap, that people were just like, why am I watching a Sulu episode? At least, and I'm throwing this on those people, but of course I would have always loved a Sulu episode or a Chekhov episode or whatever.
I was going to say, if they did more of her episodes, they wouldn't have aired in the South, but the show would have been so much better.
No one would have cared. Yeah, they would have got by. Yeah, they would have got by.
Okay, final thoughts on season 3 of TNG.
I can't wait for season 4. And not just because
cliffhanger.
Part 2 of Best of Both Worlds, but yeah, this was a really fun season. I shouldn't say really. I should say really fun. There were. I feel like there were 5 or 6 episodes that opened with me going, "Oh boy," and then by the end, I felt a lot better about them. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to see where we go next season. I can't remember watching an entire episode of TNG, although I'm sure I did. But it's been fun going through it, and like I said, I'm growing, and my attachment's growing to everybody. And yeah, I'm looking forward to not only the episodes but our conversations about it.
Yeah, I was about to say something similar. It's kind of mind blowing to me. You know, Steven being like a really heavy Trek guy, going through and kind of seeing some of these things for the first time and seeing that through his eyes. Me reminding myself of things that I was sort of growing up with at the time. This is like me coming into adulthood at this point as these things are airing, refreshing myself to things I had forgotten at the time that I really liked, getting to sort of rediscover them, seeing through Jimmy's perspective of sort of like the academic approach of having, you know, the theory of it behind it, everything, you know, seeing like the script synopses and whatever. But
yeah, so I'm looking at the list of season 4 episodes because I know when we were talking about season 3 and there were some parts of the season that weren't as good, and we were like, oh, there's these great episodes coming up. I think season 4, similarly, I'm looking at the list, and the first few episodes of season 4, not just Best of Both Worlds Part 2, but the couple episodes after that are good. And you know, we've got another Kalar episode coming up in season 4. We've got another Barclay episode in season 4. We've got more a Q doing fun Robin Hood stuff. And we've got another big part 1 cliffhanger as the season 4 finale. Right. Because they learned the Best of Both Worlds did so well, it became kind of an annual tradition to do a 2-parter that spanned the break, which they did in the end of season 4, the end of season 5, and the end of season 6. We're going to get those cliffhangers over the top. So yeah, there's some more Klingon stuff. I'm excited for season 4 as well, even though looking through the list, I think there's a lot of episodes of season 4 I haven't seen. And when I'm thinking of the episodes I have seen, I think I've mostly seen the early seasons of Next Gen. So I think that we're going to run into a lot more episodes I haven't seen yet as we move forward. And
going back to what I was saying before about like my modern bias, it even extends internally to the series here. So it's just like each time we move forward, I get more excited about. It's more like what I remember it to be. Like I kind of summarize in my head way back. This is what this character is. Oh, we're getting to this now. We're getting this aspect, and also just. Again, I'm excited to get to DS9 and Voyager, and when they start to overlap.
We're still a couple seasons from DS9, right?
Yes, DS9 started in season 6, like midway through season 6. Okay.
So we got.
And Star Trek 6, the movie, was mid-season 5. So we've got one more season of Next Gen standing by itself, and then we start to fold in the rest of the stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, one of the more exciting things about that to me is just the idea of when we get to start seeing all the cross-pollination of things, and you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've got a few special episodes coming up over the next few weeks. We've got the Toys That Made Us, talking about Star Trek collectibles. We'll talk more about our childhoods and nostalgia. We're going to review Enemy Mine, the film.
Sorry, I was so confused there when you talked about the toy episode. It's like, wait,
because we already recorded it. We're gonna watch Enemy Mine, which is the film that we said one of the earliest episodes of the season was based on. I've never seen it. I'm excited. Yeah. And then for Patreon only donors, not only can you get the video versions of all of these episodes unedited, so you get more of the banter and the side trips that we cut out of the podcast. So get over to Patreon, donate the $2. But Patreon donors at the $5 level are gonna get The Empire Strikes Back, Star Wars Episode 5. So new Star Wars episode coming at you if you shell out just a few dollars our way.
I'm looking forward to rewatching that for the 9 millionth time. I'm not going to take notes because I don't have to.
I'm going to completely trash it, obviously.
Yeah. I have no idea how many times I've seen it. More than 3, I'm sure. More than 5. I don't know. Probably more than 10 though.
It's a good movie. Yeah, it's a good movie. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I did see it in theater, I think.
It'll be the Star Wars movie I have the least bad things to say about, I'm sure.
But also the Patreon donors will get the season 3 finale stinger. The cost of that will go toward legal fees.
Dun, dun.
That's not going to live anywhere.
Because we know how litigious Rod is.
Actually, Star Trek got real litigious and made all of the fan stuff come down when they decided to launch Discovery and everything.
Seriously, I really didn't know. I was kind of wondering that. I was going to say, I mean, how litigious could a guy named Rod be? But
before they were ready to launch Discovery, there had been quite a few fan shows and stuff filling the gap of no Trek, and those were allowed to thrive online and build seasons, and even a lot of the Star Trek actors and writers got involved in them. And then when Discovery was launched, CBS went through and made them all come down.
They took down all my Ensign Mirrors erotic fan fiction. So
yeah. They took down all my Dr. McCoy nude drawings.
I'm sure they're cataloged somewhere, though.
With his bones.
To be fair, mine might have been for quality reasons, just copyright violations.
Okay, so join us for the special episodes. As usual, we'll be back in about 6 weeks with season 4. Until then, live long
and prosper
and fire.
Woo. It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?